Hi, Kinshuk.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Good, thank you.
Today I'm live with author Kinshuk. He's the author of Two Indian Girls, which is bestseller on Amazon. Congratulations, Kinshuk. How are you feeling? What's the emotion right now?
Should we wait a minute or two for some people to join in, or we should start?
Start because people have started pouring in.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, you've asked me a very pertinent question, and at this point in time, for a debut author, it makes a world of difference. You've written a book which maybe over a 5 year kind of a period you've toiled. You wrote the script, you changed it, you rewrote, you cut it here, you cut it there, they made many editings here and there. After that, it went to the publisher, who again possibly did the editing, proofreading. A lot of things happen, and then you suddenly start realizing who's the reader for you. Nobody knows you.
So,
So, how would you really go out in the market and sustain yourself? How would you create it into something which people read? Because end of the day, if you've written something, you want maybe 10,000 people to read.
so true.
So emotions are quite mixed, I would say. And while all of this is happening, the writing part is taking a backseat as much as I understand right now, because kind of trying to market it in the media everywhere. People should know about it. And once you've created a base of readers, you get into the next leg. So pretty mixed. Happy that the initial response has been very good. It's been taken well, but very, very appreciative also of some very good reviews which have come,
That's amazing.
and have had time also to go through some of the negative reviews. Have read that, noted it in my mind, would work on that in the future. But yeah, a lot of work to do on the marketing side. So need your help.
Yeah, sure. I'm always there. So, Kinshuk, why not you introduce yourself first to the readers? Uh, Tell us about yourself.
Sure. So yeah, basically, I belong to Ranchi originally, and I've been in Calcutta now 22 years, so it's like second home to me. I love the bong food. I love the mishti doi, everything here, everything of Calcutta. I just love. And basically, see, I grew in Ranchi, did my Xavier's College physics honors from there, went out to Karnataka in Manipal, and basically did my MBA from there. After that, last 22 years have been in corporate world, in sales and marketing function. So understand that side of the world.
Wow.
Mostly based out of Calcutta, but have stayed in Chennai, have stayed in Ahmedabad for some time, have stayed in Mumbai for a while.
Wow.
But that's about me. Yeah, 5 years back, started writing about. I think about 2014, I got into writing, not because it was something that I suddenly wanted to do, but I used to write a few columns in Hindustan Times while I had just started off in my career,
Wow.
and then I left it somehow and realized, no, this is something I would want to do, and not really columns, but and complete flip. Like, I was more earlier into reading of non-fiction genre. I used to read a lot of economics and polity and a lot of those things, but really moved into fiction over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's how it got started. So my dad, he's basically a professor of English, and he taught me the initial, while I was a kid, as to why one should do a lot of reading and a lot of writing. So through his lot of corrections and a lot of the way you learn as a kid, and if you've got a good teacher, you pick it up. And maybe later in life, I thought I need to go back to that. I need to do something about it.
So true. So, guys, before we proceed further, uh, you can ask Kinshuk any questions you want. Also, we are going to give away his books. So, I would suggest ki start pouring your questions for author. So, author, yeah. So, how did you come up with the idea of writing this book?
So, this has been a very I would say, it had nothing to do with about this book per se. As I told you, I started reading fiction very late in my life, while most of the people as kids read fiction. And slowly later on, they read non-fiction and a lot of other reading. But I did more of non-fiction earlier, and fiction only happened to me 4 years back. But then I realized that I had a lot of storytelling powers because as a kid also, I used to narrate stories to my brother, sister, everybody, my cousins, and they used to love my short stories also. So I thought, let me start writing, and without any structure, I did not create a structure when I started off. That's why it took me so much time because there was no structure to it. I started writing, and I started letting the characters move into a story. So once you create a character, you allow the character to just blossom, and with the character, the story moves. That's how I just let it go, and it took so much time. But eventually, my dad told me that you need to kind of get into a structure, otherwise you won't be able to complete things. You need an end, and from there you need to kind of get back. So with him as a teacher behind me, started then the process, and then I think during the lockdown, burnt my midnight oil to write the entire series. I've completed it. So the two other books would be shortly out.
Whoa, can we ask कि किसके बारे में है वो book? What is the book about?
So no, it's all it's nobody in real life. It's all fictional characters. But if you have gone through the book, which I think you have, you've seen some very smart and very talented characters in the book. So some of those characters take their own life in the next two works.
Oh, it's going to be a spin-off.
Yeah, and some of the new characters also get introduced, which are very powerful characters. So I believe if you allow a character to kind of really grow, they have a complete story of their own. So you can actually do an epilogue, a completely, a sequel to that. You can do a prequel to that, and there's so much stuff which is there in character. So after writing my three and having already named it as a trilogy, I still have a lot more stories to say on these characters.
That's amazing. So, just a sec. Yeah. So Kinshuk, how do you feel, after your first book has been printed, it's in bestseller list, you're getting reviews, some are negative, some are positive.
Yeah, so the feeling has been, I would say, on the writing side, it's very fulfilling. I had a feeling, when you first test the ground is when you realize whether there is an audience for you or not. So the first test on the ground has been very encouraging and positive. I'm very happy about it, the way it has gone. So huge number of messages and emails I'm getting, and because it's so connected world, so you are able to get an instant feedback. So the channels are open, and if my book you've seen on the last page, I've given all my connects apart from the Insta account. I have an email and everything. It's all there.
Wow.
So a lot of people are writing in, and they're giving me personal feedback. So which I'm incorporating, understanding, trying to even get back to them, answer some of their doubts and questions, and take a few more. So that's been a very engaging process. That way, I feel it's a very fulfilling time for me. Very happy about it. But yeah, as I said, a lot of work needs to be done. A lot of work needs to go out, and people need to see you. Maybe 1,500, 2,000 people need to read it first, and the word of mouth has to spread.
Yeah, it has to be. So there are two stories running parallel to each other, Amrita and Khushbu's. So were they both inspired from someone you knew, or are they creation of your imagination?
So basically, what happens is obviously you are what your experiences make you. And over the last maybe 35, 40 years, you've picked up. And, a writer becomes a writer because he has some observation skills. He observes well. He's able to kind of, and I have my sales and marketing background, HR background also, human resources background. So I do analyze people. I do analyze their traits, their personality, their movement, their eye contact, their everything. So that gives you a lot more information about a person that you're talking to than maybe a normal just talk. So all of these informations give, create a character of a person in your mind. And if you are able to kind of retain some of those characters in your mind, you are able to produce it when you write. So I wouldn't say these are characters that are taken from real life people, but I would definitely say they are summation of my real life experiences to a great extent.
So, is it true that dowry system is still relevant in Bihar?
I wouldn't say it is true. I wouldn't say it is false, but it does happen. I think many locations in India, it still happens. And Bihar is very unique in a way because most of the people over there, guys, are extremely brilliant. They go to Delhi, they study well, and they're all IAS officers and bankers and all of them. Most of the IAS officers come out of Bihar right now. So they are in very powerful positions nationally. And what happens is it has been almost an accepted fact in Bihar that if somebody has become an IAS officer, so he'll have a very big dowry market. So there'll be a lot of people wanting to kind of uh, tie their daughters not to the guy. And therefore, there is a price in the market. And that is also for a probationary officer in a bank. That's also for any government job. So Biharis used to love government jobs
Yeah.
because of, long term. Yeah, because you have a feeling of security, sense of security that I'm in the government. My job wouldn't go in a market like this, for example,
Same with
when
my.
things are really bad. So I was one of the guys who, during my early days, I told my dad, "No, I'm not getting into a government job." While he wanted me to also qualify maybe for an IAS exam. I was very clear. I want to get into management. I want to study something else. I do not want to get into an IAS or a bank job. But there are so some of the locations still have that system, and sadly it continues.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have come out of it. A lot of people have come out of it. They don't, and a lot of girls now don't even want to talk to those guys who or whose parents ask for a dowry. So it's going away. I'm sure it's going away.
Awesome. So, अच्छा, I totally forgot. First, आप हमारे readers को बताइए a little about your book. What is it about?
Okay. So basically, this is about two girls. Why I kept Indian? Because this book has also gone international, and about more than 1,000 copies internationally have already been sold. And a lot of readers in US, UK, Australia are writing to me. So they are actually very happy that the book also gives them a lot about the custom, society, culture, social mores, and political environment in a location in India because they were not so aware. In
Yeah.
sitting in the US, you've not seen Indian movies, you've not watched Indian movies, you've not really read too many Indian books that talk about India, and you've always read, books that have possibly always degraded India. Uh, so we are snake charmers, we are this, we are that. But the new India has changed. It's not that. So somewhere I wanted to write to the global audience saying, well, the India of the past, obviously some amount of it is still there, but it's changing very quickly. Things are moving forward. Better times are there to come. And this is how we are. And we have good society, we have good family systems, cultures, which you need to learn from us. So while the narration is about two girls and their lives, and they are besties, and they're completely opposite to each other, but they are still the best friends. And how a crime happens, and the other person takes over the complete investigation and helps the police inspector to take care of analysis because it's difficult to for police also they don't really go into a crime so deeply in India.
Yeah.
Most of the crimes remain unsolved. So there was somebody who pushed the officers to actually unearth what happened really. So it's two narratives together. And a lot of people have asked me why we put snippets of the political and the economic scenario of Bihar over here. It's just because of the global audiences, not so much for the Indian.
I was going to ask you the same question, but then you have already answered.
Right.
We are going to take some audience questions. A lot of them have asked. So, what brings you to make this book? Who is your inspiration? So, You have already told us about how did you come up with the idea of this book. Now tell us, who is your inspiration behind?
My inspiration has been my father. So clearly, uh, he has left a very strong impression, I would say, in a growing kinship. So, and while I was studying and I used to write essays and letters and all of that. And because you have a professor of English at your house, so you always knew that it would be struck down and there'll be a lot of, even your school teacher would not make so many corrections as much as your house teacher would make those corrections. And then you go back to him, show it to him. So 7 times I would have corrected, he would have corrected my same essay. So that gave me a, I would say, an above par experience in terms of learning the language and helps me assimilate my thoughts. Uh, he structured my mind to a great extent as to how to read a novel, what to understand in a novel, which kind of novels to read, and what kind of novels give you a lot of information about the societies that we are reading about. So, for example, in Africa, so how do you learn about an Africa? Maybe there are many ways. You might go into the African history and learn, but history sometimes becomes very boring. You don't want to learn history. You might not want to kind of actually go through a sociology book to understand what is Africa. They become quite difficult for a science student, for example. Then how do you learn about an Africa? So it's easy. There's an author called Chinua Achebe, an amazing author. Just read The Arrow of God. Just read The Arrow of God.
Sure.
An amazing book. And you learn so much. You learn so much about the British occupation of Africa. You learn so much about their systems, their cultures, their social mores, all of that. So that's how he inculcated in me a desire to read more and to understand locations, people, and to write. So I would completely give it to him.
That's amazing to hear. Amazing. So, who's your
Thank
favorite?
you.
Speaking of authors, books.
So, as I told you earlier, I used to read more of non-fiction. Some of the books that I really loved reading, I would say one was Alan Greenspan's book, so The Age of Turbulence. It's a very good book about the economic system of America. It gives you a lot of information, very, very helpful. Then there was a book called Freakonomics. I'm not an economics student, but I always wanted to learn more and more. So, and I did not want to learn the right way, as in the people learning textbooks. I did not want to learn the textbook way. So I went for sort of semi novels on economics. But later on, as over the last 4 years, one of the Indian authors, the first book I think was The Immortals of Meluha. I
Yeah,
loved it. Amish,
that was
really loved it.
amazing series.
Yeah, it is. But after that, The Kite Runner, for example, Khalid Hosseini, awesome book. The
Yeah.
Silent Patient more recently, very,
Okay.
very well narrated book. One must read it. So, but then some other books like The 40 Rules of Love, Elif Shafak, I was completely bowled over. I have never read that flow.
Is giving us some good book recommendations. Please note it down. These are really, really amazing books. Yeah,
Yeah, so
continue.
I love this 40 Rules of Love. It has completely changed me, I would say, to a great extent in the person that I am. Then Kanthapura, a very old book written by Raja Rao,
Okay.
an Indian, and an awesome book. Uh,
If,
you have to read it to believe it.
okay. I'm definitely.
So, and more recently, I Am Malala, for example, Malala Yousafzai, her journey, how she in Pakistan. It's a very powerful book. Although writing, etc., is okay, but the power that you get after kind of going through her life and the events that happened and how she took bold decisions. So these are given me what it is today. My great grandfather had written a book, which is also a very good book. Not many people would have read it.
Wow.
So that is like 1903, 1901. So that book is called Sanjogita, or The Princess of Aryavart. that was the first book written by an Indian author in English language on a historical subject.
Oh,
So,
that's a
yeah.
something.
Yeah. So that point in time, the English of it was different from today's English. It was more of Queen's English. People used to learn in India and they used to learn from the British directly. So it was
Wow.
more of Queen's English. And it's a beautifully written book. The way he describes the garden of Sanjogita, for example, awesome. You need to read it to believe it.
Please, please, आप मुझे WhatsApp पे सारी list दे देना.
Yeah.
So, अच्छा, who is your all-time favorite author and why? I think you have already answered this.
Yeah. So one name also I would like to mention, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude.
Yeah, excellent. Really
Yeah, I
good
don't
book.
need to say much about it. It's something you don't say much about, but it's beautiful composition of the book.
Yeah, very true. So, the next question is from who is your favorite character in the novel?
I did not want to give this out. I wanted people to kind of read the novel and say, for example,
Yes, still
their
readers.
own experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, if you've read, which character did you like the most?
I liked Khushbu.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's a little surprising to me. Uh, yeah, Khushbu, she's been shown as a very good girl, very
Yeah.
nice girl. But she's way too nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
Uh,
we need people, such people. I think.
yeah, but my personal favorites are two over there. One is Amrita,
I thought.
uh, for the tigress in her. She's, although, yeah, I think as a character and the kind of fighting intent she's shown throughout, I would really give it to her. But I also love the character of the Inspector Rajiv.
Hmm.
So he stood on his own in front of two very powerful men. And as a
Yeah.
very junior officer in rank, he still stood on his own and took out everything, psychological evaluation, mapping of senior people, how to talk to them, how to take out things from them. So it's a proper police procedural. The second half is a police procedural novel. And the procedure he's taken, and it's not so much of as because you did not find any clues inside the room where the murder happened. So you do not take the body to a post-mortem and you are not able to figure out anything from there. Then how do you really crack the case? It's more of, wits, matching up his wits to a very, very senior politician or government official and standing on your own and taking it out from them. So he's done a phenomenal job, I will.
So the next question is from Zone B. Okay, same question, but who is your inspiration? So we have already. Hi Kinshuk, I'm from Ranchi. I'm wondering if your book is based out of Kanke, Ranchi.
Yeah, so thankfully so. Ranchi is also my place of birth.
Okay.
I have to give it to Ranchi. So my first book had to be about Ranchi. Kanke is a location in Ranchi. It's a colony in Ranchi, large one now. So while I was there 22 years back, it still used to be a sleepy neighborhood colony. And so while in the first book, we've not spoken too much about Kanke, it's only very briefly mentioned. And it's more about Patna and the society in Patna. But my second and the third books are completely based in Ranchi, in Kanke. So yeah, we'll get into Ranchi very soon.
So, witchcraft writer Rajrani has asked, how would you describe the pace of the book?
So a lot of reviews that I'm getting and people who are writing into me. One of the things that they have mentioned is, although you'll see the political part is only 6 pages out of 170 odd pages in the book. It's only 6 pages. But a lot of people who read novels do not read so much about polity and economy, or
They don't.
possibly they already know about it. They might not want to, in a thriller or in a mystery book, they might not want to read about it. So those 6 pages, people have had some issues, which I totally give it to them. So I have like written to them also saying it was more from a global audience point of view. I wanted to educate them. So you know about an LA, you know about a New York because you've read about them, right? Or you've watched movies about them. How many people have watched movies in US sitting in US about India? Or how many people have read books which describe a local populace in India or a people in India? So this was my effort to kind of educate the global, and it's only 6 pages. It was brief, but some people felt it was slowing down the pace. After that, I think most of the people have felt 30% once you're done in the book, it picks up a very brisk pace.
Yes, it does pick. Okay, so the next question we are going to take already. At also, acha, same audiences ask, at what age did you start writing?
So as I told earlier, I earlier used to write, short stories while I was maybe 8, 9 year old. I've written short stories. I've written uh, paragraphs. I have written musings, thoughts for the day. I started writing essays while I was maybe 12. And as I told you, my dad used to correct and keep giving me back, no, you need to improve it further. So that training happened, I guess, from 8 year old to about 18 year old. A lot of training happened.
Very good.
And so I wrote in newspapers while I was maybe 30. I've written a couple of, I would say about 10 odd articles in newspapers, more on the IT policy of the government of India in that point in time, and what some institutions of government were doing on the IT side. It was very early to write about IT. It was in year 2000 I was writing about IT.
Wow, that's
Yeah, and a bit about the Indian economy and the polity. But as I said, last maybe 20 years, I completely left it. And I think 2014 onwards is when I really got back into it.
that's amazing. So one of the authors has asked you, what should be the priority for an author to bring her creativity to the world or to make money out of it?
But I guess, if you have to be in the business for the long term, and he's an existing author, in fact, I'm a debut author, he would give me more gyan on this, I'm sure. But I guess if you ask my feeling, one has to make money, definitely. If you have to live on it for the long term.
Yes.
Because if you're not making money, it also means you're not selling enough. And as an author, you would want to sell so that people are able to read you. You want a global audience. You want people out there who have read your work, who comment on your work, who write back to you, who interact with you, who give you their feedback. So it is a chain and it is a constant process. You are evolving as a writer
So true.
and you are evolving as a marketer. So writing is only, I think, 30%. And being a marketer of your own work is 70% business. And it takes a lot of time to market your book.
It does. It does. Okay. Manoj, author, has asked, so please write something on Article 370, religious differences, Kattar Dharmikta. So,
So
mm,
yeah, so what I was saying is, one thing which I have seen over the last 5 years, and after Amazon became a very big daddy in this business, uh, having taken over, I think, almost 70% space in the sales business of books, what has happened is Amazon has become extremely tight as far as the algorithms of Amazon are concerned. So what is happening is globally, and I have read a lot because I'm also a keen marketer myself in my own business otherwise. So I read a lot about how large institutions market their products. So Amazon algos are worked towards, they want to understand you and type you into a type. Okay, this is Kumar Kinshuk. He's a mystery writer. Okay, this is a pen name of Kumar Kinshuk, but this is not known in the market. This is say Mr. X, and he is a social writer. Maybe Mr. Y. He is more of a religious novel writer.
That's
So that way they have they have created a system whereby, you need to keep feeding the Amazon algo. So
oh
if you have kind of debuted as a mystery writer, if you are continuing to write in the mystery genre, you are going to do well, because people over a period of time, Amazon will sell your books for you, because they would know your books are mystery books. They are very clear about it.
wow. I did not.
Yeah, okay. So now I have done a lot of reading. I have read, for example, books from David Gogren, who's an authority on the Amazon ads and BookBub ads subject. He says if you are writing in three different genres, for example, forget it. You are not going to be big any day. You may be a great author, but nobody would know you. So for the algo, you need to feed the algo of Amazon.
Wow.
So, for example, I have written this. I am somebody who loves the economy and polity. I cannot leave it. But I'm really thinking, what should I do? I have already written two books in that genre. I've written a book on the uh, Indian polity in the 70s. And I don't know now how to market it. Because in my name, if I do, Amazon will not like it.
Okay. That was quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, someone has asked, which book are you currently reading?
So I'm reading a book, Digital Fortress.
Oh, my
It's an,
favorite.
yeah, yeah. I think, halfway through now.
That's amazing.
Amazing book. The way he writes
Genre?
and sorry,
Which is your favorite genre? Thriller?
it's now thriller and mystery
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
So Agatha Christie's of the world, Dan Brown's of the world, uh, Sherlock Holmes of the world,
Also,
all of that I just keep feeding myself on.
cross series.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, another question. If you could compare your book with a popular book, what book that would be?
It's
Okay.
difficult to. It's slightly, I would say, 70% on Agatha Christie, modeled on that.
Okay.
70% of it. The last 70%, I would say, as I told you earlier. But the first 70% is more on, I guess, building it up, making it, kind of creating your characters, because it's going to be a trilogy or maybe a 5 books on this subject. So the building up of the events and the characters has been done in the first 30%, which I think Agatha would have done over a work of 84 novels. The
Yeah.
building up of the Poirot character kept happening for her. So I have tried to do that in the first 30%, and rest was more modeled on her. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, Rekha Bhaktani has asked, if you had a chance to rewrite a book, which one would it be and what would you change in it primarily and why?
Now that's a very difficult question. I have to give it to the, I think, the questioner. So there are so many books, the after you read, you don't analyze. I, for one, what I do is I take the best parts of it, and I don't want to kind of recreate it. These are some of the best movies, for example, if you've seen, you would never want to kind of recreate it the way you are, because a director, a screenplay writer have given their life for it. They have created the way, and if you have seen some of the movies, for example, a Dawn recreated was never the Dawn of the past.
Yeah.
There's so many movies, so many author works that are out there. Some of them are phenomenal works. And if you want to kind of change something, you would want to change something in a phenomenal work. You would not want to change something in an okay work. And I'm simply not there right now. I would not want to do it.
Okay, very honest answer. Acha, let's. If your book is made as a movie, who would be the lead actors?
Now, that's a very difficult question. I was more like looking at it from a serial point of view.
Okay, so
Uh,
there's about serial and movie, both.
right. So why serial? Because then you are able to give them 3 series or maybe 4 series through the book that I've written. It can come into maybe 50, 60 serials, and lot can happen over there. I were given a chance to work with a screenplay writer. We could do amazing work with that. And I think with all these OTT channels out there, a lot is happening already. A lot of good serials have come. So, and they also need original stories, something which they have not read in the past.
Yes,
So some of the work which is coming, and I'm sure I can tell you, the second and the third books, at least to me today, blow me out. Even while I read it or while I edit it, uh, they are much better than the first book, and they would take it to the next level. So I'm
def-
just hoping uh, somebody makes it into a serial, actually, not a movie. Movies, you've seen Dan Brown's movie.
yeah.
That movie does not carry the punch that a Dan Brown book carries. So you would want it to give it some time, allow the characters to blossom, allow them to do what they do best, and see how it works. I haven't thought about who can play it. A lot of good players are there in the market, very good actors. They can do it for sure.
Very true. So, Oria Dermine has asked, what are the challenges you faced in day to day life as a writer? Have you experienced writer's block?
Yeah, so writer's block, I did not know the word also because I was never, a student of English. I was a student of physics.
Mhm.
But whatever English I learned was from my dad, as I said earlier. So writer's block and other things are, part of structure of writing a book. So how you write, what is the end, and then you kind of go back. And now, for example, there are softwares that tell you how to write. So
Yes.
there's something called a plotter nowadays, wherein you just go in and you say, okay, my first chapter will be this. You write, say, 5 lines, and then you go to the next chapter, write 5 lines, and create a structure first. And then, that's what US writers are doing right now. Not so much in India.
I am
But,
getting so much from you today.
so, but, genuinely, I believe a writer cannot be a typist.
Yeah.
He should not be a typist. A writer has become a writer because he is a thinker, and he can think scenarios, he can think many things.
Yes,
So
true.
you get into a writer's block because, one, for sure, because you've not created your end. So you'll suddenly in between say, okay, now these characters are doing very well, but where are they going? I don't know. So then you start thinking, and that's where maybe you lose 6 months time, because you've not been able to, you've just allowed the characters to go their path. How do you kind of unwind them, bring them back to the novel? So yeah, I did face it with my first book itself because I was not so aware of the structure. But now I guess I'm aware, I understand it, and while I'm creative, I know how to bring my mind back into a focused effort. And my second book I wrote only during 10 o'clock in the night to maybe 2 o'clock in the night or early morning. 12 days flat I finished it
Wow.
because I had a structure in mind.
Wow. Every book is a learning process.
It is, and you learn every day. In fact, I have learned so much about marketing, social media marketing, and so many things over the last 6 months, ever since I started looking at it. And a lot of work is happening in the US, I would say, as far as book marketing is concerned. Not so much has come to India yet, but the field has become very challenging. There are over 100,000 authors now, so you need to be seen. You need to be seen, and how do you get out there? How do you spread your word? So today, what we are doing, possibly maybe 2,000, 3,000 people would watch it, and they
Yeah.
would know a Kumar Kinsher, hopefully.
So, Young Mind Thinks has asked, what do you think a writer needs the most to make his her work an impactful book? Yeah, impactful work to impact
So
readers.
I think, right. So as I was saying, different parts of it's all part of the process. Once you have a story in mind, you structure it, and then you kind of, in the genre that you're writing, you go back and read some of the best works that have been written, and also some of the latest works that are being done in the by the best of authors. So you read a Lee Child, you read an Agatha once again. You would go and read maybe a Gone Girl, maybe a Sharp Object, a Silent Patient, maybe a Maidens. So that gives you It makes relevant things for you. You get to know what the world is reading right now because they are being read. These are the books that whole lot of people are reading out there. So you educate yourself first. You understand where they're coming from, what do readers like, and then you are able to kind of create something as impactful as you've read, while the story is completely yours.
Yes, very true. So, again, Aurea Dermine has asked if you could live in any one book of your choice, which book would you choose?
Oh, if I had to be a character, I would choose my second book, and I would become a character in my second book as a rather I would choose my third book and I would become the police officer in that.
Yeah. So,
So you guys haven't read it, so you would not be able to realize it now. But let the book come, and you would know what Kinshuk would want to become in future.
we are waiting.
Sure.
Okay. So, what is your work schedule like when you're writing?
I do not schedule myself as much. As I said, so through the day you are working in your business, in your work. You don't have time. You have to talk to so many people as you're in sales and marketing. So through the day you are pretty much challenged, and you by the end of the day you possibly can't think much. But after a good dinner, I tend to get back to my laptop. And 2 hours basically, I try and either Google things or read something or write.
That's
So that's what I've been doing. And last 3 4 months, a lot of time has been taken by marketing effort. But that's the time in the night, say 10ish to 2 o'clock, that I normally write.
so. Has pandemic helped you?
It has because you're not traveling so much, you're not going out. So you have more time, at least the commuting time has gone. So you have a little more time and you're not so exhausted at the end of the day. While you've done your work and you've done your Zoom calls and this and that, everything, you're not so challenged, you're not so exhausted. And at the night, you then have some time, or Saturdays or maybe Sundays, you have for yourself and you can do a lot.
Very good. So, Kinshuk, before we sign off, I would like you to give a few tips to budding readers who are writing books or who are going to publish the book or have published the book.
See, the first thing I would like to say is, and I'm not really, I don't think I have earned that table yet to be sitting on the other side of the table and telling you guys out there what to do when you become a writer. I would get there possibly in the future. But the way I look at it, one has to keep at it. That is the most important thing. What is happening is at least 5,000 authors come every new year. There are 5,000 new authors who come in globally, and they vanish.
Mm.
They vanish only because they haven't been able to sell their book,
Hmm.
and maybe they did not find even 100 readers. There are a lot of books like that. So the most important thing is maybe your book was not bad. Your book was what it had to be, and it was pretty decent. What happened was, or what challenged you was more on the marketing side. So as an author, most people would be, I would believe, a little technologically challenged also, because nowadays marketing has become so media savvy
Yeah.
and so social media and networking and so many things are there. Which and a writer is not technically or even fundamentally he's different. He's more of a silent guy. He's more of an observer. He's more of a creative guy. So he doesn't go out and talk to people. He would wait for people to come to him. That's how normally we have known our authors.
Very true.
So people are changing, and you have to continue to write and you have to continue to market yourself. You have to at least put out 10 books before leaving it. That's very important.
Yeah, very important. Very true. So, yeah, we have got a couple of more questions. Do you write blogs?
I do write blogs. So I have my own website now, which is kumarkinshuk.com. You can go there and check out my book recommendation because I read a lot. So whenever I have time, I just put my recommendation of my book and whatever I felt about the book in my blog. So it's kind of what bookstagrammers do, but it's mostly for my own purpose. I read it, I learn from it, and I put it out there in my blog. It's not so much to really say that, so I have given this author a 5 star, so it is a 5 star work, and this author I give only maybe 3.5 stars, so this work is not so good. It's not that. My only, from every book you learn, and there are so many things to pick up from every book. So I do that very often. But apart from that, there are also things, for example, on writing itself. I have written some blogs as to how to write a mystery novel, how to write something else, how to blog itself. So there are many things that interest me and I keep writing.
That's
I
amazing.
have not been very, I have been again challenged in that segment because I have not been able to create a very big leadership for that yet. But that is something I'll do in the future.
That's amazing to know. So yeah, last question. What is your take on anthologies?
So, anthologies, I love it particularly. And as I told you, I used to be a storyteller, short storyteller, while I was a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid. And to my cousins, so I've written an anthology already. Uh, it is called Baryatu Tales. And it is again based in Ranchi, in a colony in Ranchi called Baryatu Housing Colony. And this is basically, kids of today would not even realize the fun that we had in large families, joint families. Kids of today would not realize that. So it is my book to them to figure out what a joint family system was. I've written maybe about 25 stories there, which exactly show you the lovely times that we've spent basically as part of a joint family. So I was in a house which had more than 20 people, and
Oh,
we were like, yeah, 10 odd kids running around.
ah,
So at the age of 4, whatever I learned as a kid, so it has ghosts, it has thieves, it has everything under the sun that a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old has to grapple with while you have a teenager as your brother. So, or while you have a teenager as your sister, you also have a 1-year-old in the family who's also wanting to take his own space, walking around. So, some of those experiences I've put in an anthology. It will
oh,
come in the future.
that's amazing too. So, Kinshuk, it was nice talking to you.
Same here.
Uh,
Lovely.
yeah, continue.
No, so what I was saying is basically to all the readers and to yourself, all the marketers out there. So I would really love if you guys actually go out and read the book and personally write to me or maybe put the feedback out in Amazon, Goodreads. I today read each and every feedback. I internalize from there, learn from there. So it would be awesome if you actually do that. Wherever, whichever medium you pick, tag me there and I would read it for sure. I might even come back to you. I might write back to you to learn more from you. So it would be a constant engaging process. I want to actually interact with 10,000 people.
Yes.
So I would be able to do that. I know it would happen over a period of time, but I want that engagement to happen. So it would be lovely. And marketers like you, please spread the word.
Sure. So, bye.
Yeah, thanks so much. Take care, all of you. Stay safe, stay blessed. Let's do maybe another session where you guys have read the book, and let's interact on that. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.